So, I ended up going ahead and seeing the video from Fair and Balanced as far as Kevin McCarthy going ahead and making those claims. Now, for somebody with a full understanding, alright? Let me go ahead and break down a few things for you, alright? First off, you're absolutely right about the lawsuit, about having the lawsuit. But see, when you have people that go ahead and don't understand how to play your cards right, especially because of the factor of understanding that there are statute of limitations variables, and then going ahead and trying to make factual statement without the, the stated word allegedly to go ahead and clarify the factor that it's not founded with evidentiary basis. All right. Now, somebody's been wanting to play tortoise in the hare. Now, here's the thing. When it comes down to any evidence needed to be, submitted, to a differentiating jurisdiction, ultimately, that evidence has been gathered with one person that's, ultimately working on the case. Now, you've got another factor of we're trying to figure out the details of person of interest as well as little details that are popping up that are having to surface after, the damage with the cognitive decline, from the traumatic brain injury. That ends up going ahead and causing a massive impact regardless, I mean, just kind of the same circumstance of a person having repressed memories from traumatic incidents. But ultimately, having a system set up of like, hey, if you keep trying to weaponize involuntary psychiatric holds, that next one that you do, since legally trying to do that without any actual cause, while simultaneously trying to interfere with court requirements. So, like, for example, being required to go to counseling. All right. That's been being done, but ultimately not being, no way being provided of being able to actually get to the, counseling office. So having to do telecommunication counseling. Ultimately been going ahead with that requirement, but simultaneously, I end up finding out that the person that's my counselor also ends up going ahead and counseling a few other people within the same household, which ends up going ahead and making a conflict of interest, as well as could end up breaching, you know, doctor patient confidentiality. So ultimately, that right there would be the attempt of even obstructing court instructions, while simultaneously, the same people that want to point fingers don't want to have to explain, a long pattern of obstruction of justice, while simultaneously going ahead and having to point out, hey, there's an entire paper trail going ahead and actually verifying exactly what the fuck I'd been talking about abuse tactics and familial triangulation, in an attempt to weaponize harassment campaigns, you know? So, ultimately, with that long pattern of doing so, especially considering the factor that evidentiary was, there's kind of one person that ends up getting pointed out as far as, wanting to instigate the problem, and ironically enough, his mom actually used to be the principal of the high school that I would have ended up going to if, the alternative school ended up actually living up to its deal of go ahead and pass with honor roll level grades and, you get to graduate early. 93 GPA. Just straight up. That's the incentive. I earned the rest of all my credits to even graduate early. Done. 93 And we are talking throughout the entirety of the year. All right. So we're even talking catching up on past missed work or work that basically ended up getting distributed in a funny way because of the factor of having to bring the schoolwork to psych wards. Now, the funny thing is, imagine even ending up, clarifying like, hey, I didn't lose the homework or the classwork that I ended up giving you. The hospital went and fucking misplaced it, or didn't go ahead and submit it the way that they were supposed to, based on the details from the individualized education plan set in place for the you know specified learning disability accommodations. So I'm saying, it's like, hey, if you want to pull that thread, understand that thread leads to the same person that I'd pointed to finger to for years, while simultaneously too, with a lot of the allegations. Funny thing is, when there was that whole attempting to plant something to get me sent to that alternative school, yeah, the one thing that the police department ended up going ahead and not clarifying was the fact that they never actually ended up going ahead and checking the outside of the bag for any fingerprint residue. That fingerprint residue, that points out to that principal's son. The same one that year that I had that deal made of, go ahead and pass everything. Like straight up, all pass, top marks on a roll, and you're done with school. That year that I got offered that, her son was my classmate. The same principal that ultimately, if I would have gotten sent to the mainstream district, would have been my principal, and immediately went to go ahead and try to crack down on me to look for an excuse to try to kick me out. So, that's what that's about. So imagine having your school credentials use a bargaining chip to attempt to impede on a fucking investigation, while simultaneously going ahead and clarifying like, hey, so I'm here health whittling away anyway, so I'm doing what I can to be able to help solve whatever I can fucking help solve. And after this, just understand, I just want a clear conscience. Ultimately, I ended up losing so much along the way. So, now understand, you got to be able to work with me on my terms, though. Because, ultimately, at this point, with how far I've been pushed, forgiveness is no longer in my vocabulary.